Welcome parents and students to this tour of the Sophically website. My name is Abdullah Williams and I'm the creator and founder of the Sophically website. So when you click on Sophically or when you type in the address to the website, you're going to be greeted with quite a smooth animation screen. And as you scroll through, you might start to notice certain themes about the website and the wording. See if you can spot it. So as we go through, you might have noticed that everything is about mastery. So we've got GCSE English Mastery, we've got Private Mastery, English Mastery Academy, which I'll explain later on. We've got 11 Plus English Mastery, Key Stage 3 English Mastery, and obviously GCSE English Mastery as well. So why do we focus on mastery? Well, one of the issues with the current schooling system is that although the goals of the UK National Curriculum for English are very noble, the curriculum was designed to help the students literally to master the language, to be able to read fluently and write with understanding, analyze deeply, to write in a variety of forms, to be able to adapt their writing and their language for different purposes. What we find at the moment, though, is that because there is so much pressure on schools and students to do well in the exams, finish GCSE, then what? What do they do with their English afterwards? Because if you practice being good at the exam, that's fine. You might be good at the exam afterwards, or you might be good at the exam, but how much of that you've learned is going to help you later on in life? Will they be able to write applications? If they need to write a speech, how well can they do that? Are they able to actually write effective essays? Do they understand the structure of an essay? So what we focus on here at Sophically is we focus on getting the students to understand the principles of the language first. So what you might notice if you go, for example, into our courses, we'll just click on courses now. So for example, what I'll take you to is, this is actually our premier course, Steps Towards Mastering GCSE English. So let's open that up. And then what we actually start with here is, first of all, we actually start with initial assessment. And this is a diagnostic assessment where the student writes, and they write an exam with no help from the tutor. So the point of this is simply to see what they know and what they don't know. And then what we do after that is, I forgot to open the page. So just give me 1 second while I find the assessment spreadsheet. So what we do with the assessment is we then train them how to assess themselves. Okay, so what we do is we give them the spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet actually lists all the skills that they need to know, right? It lists all the skills that they need to demonstrate. So what we do is at the beginning we start off with things like choice of references, which is simply quotes, their ability to explore the text, their critical style, the use of subject terminology, the exploration of context, exploration of perspectives. And then what they do is they then grade themselves and they give themselves a level, because this is actually how the examiners mark. The examiners don't actually give them a mark. What they do is they look at the skills and the quality of the skills that the students have demonstrated in their work, and then they assign them a level. So for example, for GCSE English Literature, there are actually 6 levels, even though there are 9 grades. So what you can see, for example, here is that level 1 contains grades 1 and 2. Level 2 contains grade 3. Level 3 contains grade 4. Level 4 might contain grades 5 and 6. Level 5, grade 7, and then level 6, grades 8 and 9. So that's just a rough estimate. It might not be 100% accurate, but it's more or less correct. So then, as you can see, they color code themselves. And where the student color codes their skills with the in the S cell, and then once they finish that, then I come in and I then assess them as well, and I see, and I try to see or we try to find out how much their assessment matches my assessment, and then I try to get them to be more accurate as they go along, so that they understand how they're being marked, and they understand how the skills are being marked as well. So, and then what this does is it helps us to understand where the student is losing the most marks. So here, for example, I've actually sort of rated the skills. So for example, this skill, the conceptual approach to task and the whole text, has a massive impact on the student's marks. So even though here, for example, we've got some of his skills in the green, he's actually graded himself in the blue here. But even though he's got some of the skills in the green here, which is quite good, but if we notice that this skill here, conceptual approach, is in the orange. So what that means is that this skill here is going to be dragging down his marks quite a lot, even though he's got the other ones, some of the others in the green here. And then what we can do from there is then we can start to target this skill specifically, the conceptual approach. So once he's finished analyzing this, so for example, as you're scrolling through, this is about, this one here is, it's about his vocabulary. And you can see he's actually quite strong with his vocabulary there. Here, this is organization. So this part here is actually about the structure of his essay. And you can see he needs to do quite a bit of work on that as well. And then down here, this is all about technical language, which is basically spelling, punctuation, and grammar. And as you can see, his spelling, punctuation, and grammar is actually quite strong. A lot of it is in the purple. A little bit of it is in the red. So we know that his writing from a technical perspective is good. But he has particular skills that he needs to work on, such as the structure of his essays and his conceptual approach as well. So that's just a brief overview of that. So that's the purpose of the initial diagnostic assessment. Then the next thing we start doing is we actually start focusing on definitions. Why? Because if we are trying to get the students to understand the principles of the language, the principles are really about the concepts of the language. So if you're writing this type of language, like a speech, what style of language should I use? If I'm writing an essay, what style of language should I use? How creative can I be in an essay? How creative can I be in a speech? How creative can I be in a story? Can I use the same language in a story as I do in an essay, for example? What are the different types of essays that I might be asked to write? Do they have the same style of writing, or are they different? And what similarities do all these different writing forms share? So for example, one similarity that all writing forms share is structure, meaning a clear introduction, a body, and a conclusion. So whether you're writing a speech, an article, leaflet, letter, story, or anything like that, they all should contain that basic structure. So when we're applying that understanding to an essay, for example, we understand that we need to have an introduction, middle, and conclusion. But how is that different then to a story, for example? Or how might that be different to a speech? So then once they understand the basic principles, they can start to apply that understanding to the particular type of writing that they're using. So the very first thing that we actually start off with is we can see here, for example, that we look at unit objectives. So the first lesson is actually unit objectives, if that'll actually open for me. So unit objectives, they'll see at the beginning what their objectives actually are. So for example, the importance of building vocabulary, importance of possessing thorough definitions, the sophically definition of literature, how to analyze a text through a definition. So what we first start off with is actually the definition of literature. What is literature? Because once they understand that literature is really a creative way of trying to understand the problems that human beings face in the world, then they understand that their analysis needs to talk about the issues that the text is speaking about, that they're analyzing. Because, for example, when we looked at the student spreadsheet, we saw that one of his weaknesses is a conceptual approach. Now, a conceptual approach might sound complicated, but all it really means is that the student is exploring the ideas behind the text, with especially including the author's purpose, for example. So why did the author write the text? What are the ideas behind the text? and why did the author decide to write about those ideas. So once we know that literature is all about human conflicts, human issues, then all the student needs to do is figure out which issues the text is writing about and then understand how to write about them in the most effective way. So that's why we start with definitions first. If they know what the thing is, then they have the basic understanding of it, and then they can start to ask questions about it and apply their knowledge to it. So as you can see, this is actually my profile. So you can see I haven't actually completed the lessons because I'm the one creating them. But I'll show you what it looks like in a minute where students have actually completed some of the lessons. I just wanted to point out some of the features in the actual lesson. So for example, at the bottom right here, we actually have a note-taking pad. So when they click on that, the student can then move the note-taking pad around and then they can start to take notes on the particular lesson that they've done. Now, another thing that I need to mention as well is that if you look here, for example, Unit 6, you can see that there are 20 lessons in there altogether. Now, it might sound like a lot, but another thing that I need you to, or that I want parents and students to understand, is that nothing in the courses and the lessons that we've created, nothing comes from guesswork. Everything comes from research and experience. So it's mainly those two things, research and experience. So what do we mean by research? It means that for the past 4 years, we've been going through research about how the brain learns, the most effective learning techniques, how to learn English specifically, for example, and we've then applied the findings that we found from the research into the courses itself. So even though 20 lessons might sound like a lot, but we've designed them to be bite-sized. So a student might spend anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes. Some of them are obviously longer because we do have things like projects as well. So they'll do a project. So for example, let me have a look here. So for example, I'll show you the blog. So you can see, for example, when students do some kind of a writing project, whether it's a story or a speech or a letter or anything like that, once it's of a standard of at least a grade 6, I used to say grade 7, but I felt like some of the students thought that was a bit intimidating. So I say at least grade 6, then they can publish it in the blog, which means that it becomes viewable for anybody on the internet to see, so the students can then share their work with other people. So for example, if you look at Mohammed's one here, he's got this very, very good story that he wrote about a plane that had a crash landing, and what was the experience. Everybody on the plane survived. It's actually based on a true story, but what was the experience from inside the plane? He tried to imagine that and then write it in here, and it's an excellent story. So if we go back, then we can see, for example, we've got here Nemo, she's published hers as well. When students actually start with us, the ideal situation is to have a student who starts in year 7, 8, and 9. Why is that ideal? Because really what we want to do is we actually want to take the students through what we call the Becoming an Expert Learner course. So this is actually going to be the first course that a lot of the students are actually going to do, particularly if they're in year 7, 8, and 9, as I explained. And this course is only 5 units long, so it's fairly short. And the point of this course is that what we tend to see a lot as well is that a lot of students don't actually know how to study. They don't have any study skills. So what tends to happen is that they go through their schooling, year 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then suddenly 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 week, 1 month before the exam, they suddenly feel like they've got to start revising. And then they start doing, crash revision, late nights. They might stay up all night, the night before the exam, studying. And this is a very common thing that I'm sure a lot of people know about. But this is extremely ineffective. not least because the English exams, the language and the literature, are both testing students' skill and knowledge. And the skill and knowledge, it actually takes a long time to build, anywhere really minimum of about 6 months to a year or 2 years. That's the amount of time that it really takes for students to build the knowledge to be able to do this exam. So cramming the night before is not only ineffective, but it actually increases the chances of them underperforming in the exam, because the brain needs the rest in order to be able to perform optimally. So if they go into an exam with 1 or 2 hours of sleep, they're not going to be able to perform to their optimum level. So what we do instead is we teach them about research that has been done on the way that the brain learns. So a lot of scientific research and a lot of educational research as well. And we give them certain principles to learn. They do quizzes on it. They also do a manifesto, which is the one here. So if you look at this one here, How to be an Expert Learner by Muhammad Ahmed. So then he'll write the manifesto. The manifesto has to be based on the lessons that we taught them in the Becoming an Expert Learner course. And then they write about who can benefit from the techniques in their manifesto, why as well. They also have to use creative language, so they are sort of learning language paper 2 at the same time. They're practicing language paper 2. And then they give 10 proclamations or instructions as to what a student needs to do in order to become successful. So for example, he said, number 1, we will expand our brain. We will identify our mistakes and come up with solutions to improve, then try again. Proclamation number 2, we will stay engaged. We will be curious and learn deeply. Proclamation number 3, we will practice deliberately. We will practice for a specific goal, such as training to eliminate our weaknesses, and so on and so forth. And so as they go through their learning, I try to encourage them to remember these proclamations that they wrote about. So if they're feeling frustrated with an exercise they think is too difficult, then we might remind them about, what is growth mindset? Well, growth mindset is the idea that even if you fail, you understand that there is always a way to improve. You just have to figure out what went wrong and then fix that and then try again. And then they understand that they'll be able to get there eventually. So with the Becoming an Expert Learner course, we don't put a time limit on the amount of time that they need to spend on it. They take their time, and that's why it's really good for them to start in year 7, 8, and 9, because they can take their time to learn it. And when they've finished, they then get a certificate. So for example, here, if we click on this, download a certificate, you'll see that the certificate comes up like this, which is an achievement for them. And a lot of the students we find actually feel really motivated by this and happy that they've got the certificate, and they feel proud, especially with students who don't feel confident in the beginning. So to get something like this, then it's something that reminds them of the achievement which they've done. And we've seen it before with students getting frustrated and saying that they can't do it, they're not able to do it. But when they finish it, there's a massive change in their psyche. We can see a different type of attitude that they've now got, because they suddenly have this belief that I actually can do this, right? So another thing that we try to do to keep the students engaged is they have their own profile here, for example. So if you click on the name, and then if they go to their profile, then what you can see here, for example, is you can see that we actually give them points and badges and achievements and things like that. So this is actually a fairly new system. So mine is actually not very accurate because I've converted the points from the old system, which was really experimental, but the new system is going to be much more effective. So the new system is they get awarded experience points, perfect score points, and login points as well. And I'll show you what a student's one looks like, because I haven't actually altered mine yet. But an experience point they get for any interaction on the website, whether that's finishing a quiz, whether that's finishing a lesson, finishing a unit, finishing a course. They also get extra points for every perfect score that they get. So you can see, for example, here we've got perfect scores. I've got 12, so I might get an extra 20 experience points. We even have things like, for example, if we go to activity, so there is also a social aspect to this website as well. So students can keep up to date with what other students are doing as well. So you can see, for example, here there's an announcement from me which says, "I'm pleased to inform you about recent updates in addition to the beta steps towards mastering GCSE English Language course." And what that means basically is that there's a new quiz or lesson. For example, here Abdullah posted a new lesson, so a new lesson has been posted here. But so you can see this is mainly feeds for my profile because it's sort of relevant to me. But I also get things like, for example, Mo earned 1 login, so that means that he logged in 1 day and 18 hours ago. This is a notification about the Wednesday Mastery Academy group. By the way, the Mastery Academy group is basically group tuition that we do for groups of maximum 6 students at a time. And we also do obviously private tuition online and in person as well. So yeah, you can contact us about that. You can see most of this is about quizzes and lessons that I've created. I think in the last month I've posted something like 50 new lessons and quizzes for the students to do. But sorry, this is taking a little while. So I'm trying to find. So here, for example, we've got new documents that I've uploaded as well for the students to refer to. This is about Macbeth. This is a notification about discussion. So Sumaya posted something and I've replied to her to say well done. So here it is. Sumaya replied to discussion in the forum. We'll show you the forums as well. Like I said, there are so many features that I'm not really sure that I'll be able to go through them all. Just trying to get through here. What's this? Okay. Oh, so here we've got, for example, congratulations to Oliver for getting outstanding at school in English. So what I try to do as well is if the student's done really well in school as well and they get recognized for something, then I'll post it here as well for everyone to share. The students can like it, they can share it. So more lessons, as you can see. So just bear with me a minute, and there we go. And this was for Zainab. She got the highest score in her class for poetry. And this actually brings me to an interesting point because the reason why we want to now sort of raise awareness for our system is that this system has basically been in development for probably at least 4 years now. So it's 4 years of planning and also a lot of testing with the students as well. So the students have been using our material, using the site, and we've been sort of reacting to the feedback that we get, how they're finding it. Is it having an impact on their learning? And what we're finding now is that we are definitely starting to see consistently good results from students. So for example, Zainab, I think it was probably only a year ago or maybe a year and a half where I assessed her, and she was really at around about a grade 3 or grade 4. And for this one, so when we posted here, it says congratulations to Zainab for getting the highest score in your class for poetry. Essentially what happened is that we had she does 2 lessons a week, so we had a lesson on Tuesday and a lesson on Wednesday. And I knew that she was doing poetry, but when she came to me on the Tuesday, she said to me, "Oh, we've got a test tomorrow," and she didn't know about the test. Now, when we were doing the poetry, we had only been reading it because I tried to get the students to read first and then start to think about their ideas afterwards. So she had only read, I think, half or less than half of the poems before they had this assessment. So we didn't really have time to prepare her for the assessment. So what we did was, all I did was I showed her a sample answer, and I showed her the basic structure of a poetry essay, and I gave her some revision notes, and then she went and she really did most of the work by herself, and she scored 23 out of 30, which is just under 80%. Now, in 2019. The grade 9 was 85%, I believe. So she scored just under 80% with really very little preparation especially very little preparation from me. But what that shows is that I believe the system is working, because what we try to do is we try to encourage the students to be independent. Of course, I'm there as well, and I support the students and I guide them and I tell them what they're doing right and what they need to improve on. But ultimately, the work is designed for them to be able to progress as independently as possible, without us obviously leaving them completely on their own. Now, for someone going from a grade 3 to just under 80%, which is probably roughly around about 6 or 7% away from a grade 9, with no exam preparation, what it shows is that she understands the principles now of writing. She understands how to use vocabulary, and she understands what essay writing and literature is really about. And therefore, even though our preparation wasn't optimal, she still came out with the highest score in her class. And so that's very impressive, and it's very encouraging for us as well to see that the system is working, and that it's not all about the teacher holding the student's hand all the way, because the problem with that is that when they're finished their GCSEs, how are they going to use the language if they don't have a tutor there to hold their hand all the way? And this is what we want the students to do, is to be independent and to be able to ask questions themselves and to figure out answers as much as they can by themselves before relying on the teacher. Okay, so that's very encouraging. There are others as well. So we post things as well when they complete a course. We say congratulations to them. We've got this point system that I just discussed. So if we go here, if you look at members, for example, I'll try and find you one that's more reflective. So if, for example, you look at this one here, Rayan, he's got 77 perfect scores. He's doing 11 plus. So he mainly focuses on quizzes. So he does a lot of quizzes. You can see 77 perfect scores, which is quite amazing. He probably needs another type of reward. I'll have to think of a reward to give him. But let's look at let me find Mohammed's one. So if we go here, so if you look at his profile, he's got 3,285 experience points. So if we're calculating that each experience point is roughly worth about 1 minute's worth of work, that means he's done 3,285 minutes of studying with us. He's now in year 10. We're gonna attempt to enter him early for GCSEs just to see how he goes. So in year, he's gonna go for his language GCSE in year 10 because he's been really outstanding as a student. He's just been very, very consistent, very focused, and it's really paying off for him. You can see he's also earned the Expert Learner badge, meaning that he completed the Expert Learner course. And we are still developing the point system. So there'll be things like, for example, there'll be a notification that pops up on the left side here telling them how much points they've earned for an activity. And that will hopefully give them that little bit of extra motivation. So now I know I've been talking for a long time, so I'm going to try and go through the rest of it briefly. You can see there's a lot of stuff here as well. So one thing that's interesting, for example, if we look at forums, so if you look at Mohammed's forums here, then the forums are where we do sort of long form discussions. So if we click here on replies, then it'll open up all the replies that he's done. So you can see here, this one's about the story. So he's so this is where he's posted it. This one is, I believe, some type of analysis or comprehension exercise that he's done. Again, analysis and comprehension. So that's all about principles. And you can see it goes on and on and on. Now, the benefit of this is that this effectively can act as a study guide for the students. So if they forget about something, then they can always go back to and look at their replies and look at what they've said, look at the definitions. For example, here it says, the extract explores the concept of injustice, which was introduced in the first paragraph. So this is obviously an analytical exercise that he's done. And he can look at that and he can use this as a revision exercise. At the top here, they get notifications as well. So if I comment on something, they get a notification. There is also a system where here, for example, when I reply or they reply, this notification pops up at the bottom, and then it obviously tells them that I've replied or someone else has replied, and they can have a look and see what they've said. We also try and focus on really nice styling, so it's nice for the students to look at. Model answers as well, lots of model answers for the students. So once they do an exercise, we always provide the answer for them as well. They've got downloads here, so they can download the document. If they open up the menu here, if we open up the menu here, they can actually click on My Documents. So if they go in there, they can see all the other documents that they've saved or that we've uploaded. We are actually planning to build a library on the website as well. So there'll be sort of like maybe like a Wikipedia style library where students can they can go to the library, and if they're doing work for school, they can download documents or research topics and things like that. I just wanted to show you this one quickly because this is the poetry. Okay, actually, let me show you the love and the relationships cluster. I just wanted to show you the videos as well. So we try to give them a variety of mediums for them to learn from. So if we look here, so this is all about reading the poems. So let's go to one which I've actually completed. So we'll look at neutral tones, for example. So again, try to give the students a nice experience with nice design images as well that are relevant to the topic they're learning. Here they've got video.
We stood by a pond that winter day.
I'm just going to mute that. So as the video is playing, then if they scroll to the bottom, then you can see the video then becomes stuck to the bottom, and then they can actually read the text. So for example, this one is actually reading the poem with them. And so we have, this way students can hear how the poem is read, and then it will help them to generate more ideas as well. And then if we scroll back up to the top, the video goes back. They can then start to take some notes if they want to, and then refer back to that. What else do we have? We've got lots of quizzes and lots of other interesting little exercises that the students can do. Let me see if I can find a quiz quickly. How to be an expert. No, that's a student's piece of work. So, okay, if we go, okay, what were we working on today? So I'll show you one of the new lessons that we've done today. So for example, let's go to Unit 9. So examiner's requirements. So here they're learning about what the examiners actually require. Let's go to the last lesson that I've done there. Another thing that I forgot to mention is that the lessons, the courses have all been designed in a step-by-step fashion, meaning that really a student of any level can jump onto our courses and they should be able to see progress, whether they are a complete beginner, whether they're extremely weak, or whether they're strong. The lessons have been designed in a modular fashion as well, meaning that even though we want the students to go step by step, we understand that obviously at school they do topics that at a different time that we might be doing. So a student might have started, let's say they're on Unit 2, for example, but then they started doing story writing at school. What they can do is they can find a story writing lesson in the course and jump straight to that, do that lesson, and then carry on with the rest of them later on, which some of our students have done, and again, achieving excellent results. So for example, this one here says, match each general skill required to the correct category. So what I try to get students to do is understand what skills each paper requires. So here you can see, for example, only GCSE English Literature, only GCSE English Language, and this one says both GCSE English Language and Literature. And now here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 skills: analytical skills, creative skills, imaginative skills, organizational skills, and convincing and persuasive. So what I want them to do is I want them to match, and they have to pay attention. Is it only or is it both, right? So let's say I think GCSE English Literature only focuses on analytical. So let's do that. This one only focuses on creative writing. And then let's say, okay, both of them need good organization. And then I'll say maybe GCSE English Language focuses on imaginative skills. And then maybe both of them need convincing and persuasive skills. Then what they do is they look here, check it, and then it tells them what they got right and what they've got wrong. Okay, so they obviously know, okay, that's not quite right. And then if they scroll to the bottom, they have the option to retry. So they can try again and then do it again. I'm not going to do it now because I don't want the students to see the actual answers. And this is one of probably about 40 different types of exercises that the students have. Plus, they've got quizzes as well. And then, one thing that I forgot to do is show you. Let me show you very quickly, because I showed you. Actually, let's have a look quickly at. We'll look at forums. So if we go here, they've got lots of different forums that they can go to, and they can discuss things with other students. Let's have a look. So if we go to GCSE English Language, I need to put images for some of these. You can see all the discussions going on there. So if we click one, let's have a look. Let's click on this one here. So the question is, what are these values that stories teach? And then I give them a question to do, and the students answer those questions. And obviously what I do, especially with the Mastery Academy students, is I obviously make sure that the students' answers are at least grammatically correct. And I obviously will help them if I feel like they've gone way off track. And that means that when they post here, that the answers are very, very accurate and very high quality as well. And what that also means is that if a student is studying by themselves, that means that they can always look at what the other students have written as well, and then try to get some ideas or base their ideas on that, see if they're going the correct way. So this acts as feedback for the other students as well. So let's quickly go to other courses. We'll go back to poetry. And I'll just show you very quickly. Actually, let's have a look. Okay, if we go here. No, actually, let's look at the language one. So see if we can find longer discussions. Yes. So if we go to Unit 6, let's have a look at this. Foundations of Knowledge. So here, for example, you can see that some of the exercises say comment. So they know they have to comment on these ones. And so they have some questions. So we have a video. By the way, the videos are interactive, a lot of them anyway. So where you see this dot here, that means a question is going to pop up and they have to answer the question. They have to get the answer correct. Otherwise, what it does is the video goes back and then they have to do the question again. And then they cannot mark the lesson complete until they get 100%. And obviously we make it possible for them to get 100%. So in the comment ones, these comment exercises are for short answers, where I might just ask them for an opinion or what they think about a particular topic. And you can see here they give their replies, and then I will reply to them, just telling them how well I think they've done. So for example, great answers, Nemo. And yeah, there's going to be lots of other things coming as well. So we'll have things like a grade book. At some point, we will also have options for independent learning as well. I think we're going to start with 11 plus and SATs. It's not quite ready at the moment, but probably in the next 2 to 3 months, we'll have an option for students who don't want to have tuition, for example. They can just subscribe to the website, and then they can just do the SATs exercises or the 11 plus exercises. And we're planning to only charge about £10 per month for those to make it really affordable. Anybody who's interested in group tuition, the group tuition is basically £10 per hour. The lessons are 2 hours long, and we give them a 5-minute break every 25 minutes. And that is based on scientific research as well, because research shows that that's really the optimum amount of time for the brain to focus is 25 minutes. And then they should have a little break, and then we carry on. So the lesson is broken up quite a lot. So even though it's 2 hours, it tends to go by quite quickly. Plus, they're engaged in their work. I also have discussions with them as well, and I try to make it sort of spontaneous and natural discussions, asking them questions about things they've done, or if they ask me a question, then I'll discuss something with them to help them embed their understanding. So there's a lot of things for students to do. Like I said, there'll be a grade book. We'll have like sort of notifications to tell them how many points they've earned as well. We'll probably have a leaderboard at some point as well. We also want to have like possibly a roadmap or a page that shows the achievements and the awards they've earned, which shows that very clearly. Lots of things. So for the group tuition at the moment, there are we do tuition on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. The Tuesday group is almost full. We have a few spaces for Wednesdays. Friday is pretty much empty, and then Saturday we've got a few students as well. So we do have a few spaces available. If you do want to contact us, I will leave an email address underneath the video, or obviously you can visit our website and you can contact us through that as well. Let me just show you very quickly actually. So if you go to the website, you can see here contact. So if you go here, you can click to call, enter your details if you want us to call you back, email, and so on and so forth. So so yes, like I said, the spaces are a little bit limited. We'll see what the demand actually is for it. If the demand is more than what we have capacity for at the moment, then we will see about opening up more groups and more options for anybody who does want them. But I highly encourage, if you do have students who are in year 7, 8, 9, even 10 or 11, and you want them to have that little boost, we really are quite ambitious with this project. We think that this is going to be the most powerful learning system for students for English. It's the only mastery learning system that I know of. Oh no, there are a few others, but they are definitely not as powerful as this one. So this will definitely be the most powerful English mastery learning system on the internet. And if you've got children, please don't have any hesitations about contacting me, and give me a call, and you can ask any questions you want. We've got lots of students who are achieving excellent results, and it doesn't matter how weak your child is, we will start them at the right place for sure. All right, thank you very much, and I'm sorry if this video went on too long, but I look forward to hearing from as many of you as possible. Thank you.